So, Tommy, what did you think of the debut on Monday for Penta?
I loved it. I was super duper happy for him. Guy has paid his dues. I enjoyed the build up, and most props also to Chad Gable, who was the perfect opponent for Penta. I really enjoyed the match. One person went over, the other person got over. It was a great debut. You saw the emotion with his family crying. The people knew his stuff. I loved it. Discussed it on Busted Open After Dark in detail, but also the promo after, which if some people saw it, some people did not. It depends on what tier system you have within Netflix. Overall, I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I was very, very, again, like I said, happy. Of course, there's going to be some backlash, but I would, whenever I hear backlash, one, I think of who was the person who started this, right? And then and this was about how much time he was given, all that stuff. I don't know if that's the case because Monday Night Raw no longer has a time. Trust me when I'm watching it, and I got 35 more minutes before I go on Busted Open After Dark. Because last week ended at 11. This week it ended at what, like 10:34.
Yeah,
So how could people be talking about time when there is no more time constraints? Yes, you want to hit some commercials. Yes, you want to hit certain things, but this show could do whatever it wants now. So I don't think that is necessarily true. And those are usually from haters as opposed to people celebrating, which 95% the entire house did. And it was a great debut. Right place, right time, right everything, right setup, right opponent, a perfect debut. The only other better debut, and if there was a Nation member that tells me another great debut to trigger my mind, was Taz and Kurt Angle when Taz came out at that Royal Rumble and wrestled Kurt in his debut match in WWE. It was perfect, and I think this was actually as good, if not better, because of length of the match, all that stuff.
Jericho, so it was a great debut in the WWE as well. All right,
Who did he wrestle
looking
that
at
night?
this. Well, he didn't.
Okay. I'm talking about wrestling debut. I'm not talking about
Oh,
how I show up.
oh, okay. All right. So wrestling debut, Ronda Rousey. I mean, her debut was at WrestleMania in a tag match. You know,
Yep. Great opponents too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Stephanie doesn't get enough love for that match.
agreed, and
No.
I think that's it's one of the greats. All right, Thunder. According to my clock, it's not Tony time. So Thunder, what did you think of the debut of Penta on Monday Night Raw?
Um, First of all, I just want to focus on what it means, especially for Latinos, and what Penta means for a lot of us. In a personal level, for me, Penta has been a friend of mine for a while. I got really close once he came to AEW. I've worked with him since Lucha Underground, so I've seen his rise to every platform that he's worked. Um, and seeing him with his family, which like his daughters, I met his daughters, I hang out with his daughters, his wife. Um, it was very special because he said something really, really beautiful in Spanish. And I think everybody that is Hispanic speaking or has gone through some of the similar things that he's gone through, we felt it in our heart. And it was that he's an example of a Mexicano that has made it and worked really hard. And there is a YouTube video right now that was released 9 days ago. It's from Lalo Elizarraras, I think, and Penta takes him where he started working in his place of birth, which is Ecatepec, Mexico, which is one of the most dangerous and most most dangerous places in Mexico City. And him and his brother worked so hard from carrying things in Mercado de Abastos 5-6 days a week, and then they were training and they were getting paid literally. They call it luchadores moleros, which is they get paid by a soda and a plate of food. So just imagine that. That was like probably 20 years ago when they both of them started, and seeing them how they have been able to transcend uh, barriers and everything, because they both had to learn English at a older age, and seeing what he said, like, it really got in my heart, because I seen his struggles and I sat with him, and he's all about business, and he has a great influence in me personally, and he, like, I get a little emotional because at a time in where things are changing so quickly, and the political sphere sometimes can be a little daunting for some of us, like seeing someone like that being an example of that hard work takes you to places, and you will utilize every platform that you can to become successful. It means a lot. um so seeing him, I've seen him so many times being successful, and in AAA and Lucha Underground. Some of the best matches I ever seen was on Lucha Underground. That's a place in where a lot of us, learn a lot in the business, and it was our first big shot, and see where each and every one of us have gone and done our career. It was beautiful. But for me, and in a global aspect, and as a Hispanic speaking person, representation means everything. And it was beautiful to see that. As a friend, I said, as someone who also represents Latinos everywhere I can, with you know with with everything, with my presentation, with the wrestling style, with speaking Spanish and promos. It is very important, and I'm really happy that he's able to utilize another platform to continue to bring a positive example and global exposure to this type of wrestling, and new fans and new audiences. And also, it is important, like AEW and WWE are in worldwide platforms, such as AEW is on Max and WWE is on Netflix. And the fact that we're able to expose people all over the world with lucha libre and with diversity is so important. And there's so many more people out there in WWE that has put a lot of work. Santos Escobar, Raquel, Rey Mysterio, Priest, Dominic, and we have an AEW Commander, Hologram, Ortos, Rush, Steph Vaquer, Red Velvet, in our age. So it's big, because 20 years ago, I can tell you, I just talked to Super Crazy. The way that they were presented in WWE, they were riding a lawnmower 20 years ago. Mexicanos, people like me that have gone through a lot, that pay their dues, that came in a lawnmower. That's how they were represented. And look how are we representing ourselves now, with pride and honor, in every company that we're working. More Puerto Ricanos, Dominicans, Mexicans, Colombians, you name it. This is a beautiful moment for professional wrestling. I'm not talking about in just one company, or being tribalistic. This is a beautiful moment for Hispanics in professional wrestling, because finally we are seeing some change, and we're seeing that they're respecting our traditions, and that we're given a space in where we can be ourselves. So that's why I was so proud. And a bunch of I was trending on Twitter. It's not about me. It's about how important this is for representation, and it really warms my heart to see it's I can't even talk, to see that it's happening on every platform.
Dave, there's something that you and I grew up with, which Damian Priest has done it, where you're speaking the language of your people. It got lost for a long time, and Thunder, I'm watching her get emotional about it. I always tell people, when you're cutting promos, if you speak another language, acknowledge those people, because you're forgetting the people who support you. You're alienating a fan base. And when
Yeah.
I heard his promo, it made me so happy. I didn't know what he was saying, but I heard the response. And if you think about it, Tito Santana would always go, "If you let me speak to my people." Pedro Morales would do it too. Manny Fernandez, "Excuse me, can I speak to people in my native tongue?" And they cut their promos. And it gets, why cut out people who you represent or give hope to. And I'm happy that that trend in WWE is now back, because it left professional wrestling for a while. And now that it's back, and I'm just talking any language if you speak, because you alienate people who are just like you. And I loved everything about, and I loved even more what she said, but I loved everything about Penta and all of his debut, because it's about the journey that got him there, from indies in Mexico to Lucha Underground. He always had this buzz, and it's kind of like he finally said it, like, I'm where I always wanted to be. And that's not a shot at AEW. This is his dream. AEW didn't exist when he started up in wrestling. There's people who grew up TNA kids, and hey, they want to be a part of TNA because that's the company that they gravitated to. But for him, it was a beautiful, and it's just the beginning. And how they did it with the masks going on shop, and all, he's presented already as a star, and his talent will continue to make him a star. And then being endorsed by Ray during the commercial break was phenomenal, because here's a legend pushing for him. And that's what Ray does all the time for people. I've said it on Busted Open After Dark. I've literally seen Ray go up and push for people to the bosses for jobs, because he's not worried about his own spot.